So the recipe I was looking forward to making the most from the produce sent to me by Wild and Game was the pheasant Wellington. The moment I took the recipe card out of the box, I thought to myself, that sounds like something I would really enjoy. So the pheasant fillets came in a garlic and herb marinade. The rest of it really was just about following an absolute classic British dish in terms of the Wellington recipe. So come over, have a look at the ingredients, and I'll show you how I made it. So obviously the star of the dish is going to be these beautiful pheasant fillets. We've also got some mushrooms, we've got a couple of banana shallots, a couple of cloves of garlic, some puff pastry, shot ball. Can make your own, but this is much quicker. I'm using some of the homemade butter that I made. I'll share the link above here to how you can make your own butter, but normal butter, shot ball butter will be fine. You're going to need 1 egg, you're going to need some mixed herbs, and you're going to need some pancetta, but because this is best of British Blackwell, we are using some thin and crispy smoked streaky bacon instead. So let's make a start. I'm going to start off by really thinly dicing these banana shallots. We want it to be as thin as possible. So if you were making a beef Wellington, this would be the duxelle. They call it duxelle. The difference in this Wellington is that you don't need a pancake or anything like that. You just need the accompanying paste to go around the outside of the duxelle. So when I say trim these thin, what I'm going to do is just thinly slice them along the top here. And this is pretty much as thin as we're going to need them. Second stage is to take our garlic. We just want to skin it and mince it. Easiest way of doing that, I find, is using the garlic press. So no great skill involved here just yet. Just take the skin off of the garlic and mince it down. Now with the mushrooms, we need to get these into a real paste. So easiest way of doing that is to get them into this little mini blender and grind them down. Okay, and the final part of preparation for our filling here is going to be some bacon. Like I said, in a Wellington, you can use pancetta, you can use Parma ham. Here, I'm going to get 4 decent pieces of very thinly sliced English smoked bacon, and I'm just going to thinly slice that some more, just down into these strips. And this is very, very thinly sliced bacon, so actually the fat should render down and completely dissolve, and all you'll be left with is that beautiful meat texture. So we're at the point now where we are going to start to prepare the filling that's going to go inside this Wellington with the pheasant. So let's get some of that butter into a pan, let that melt down. Then we're going to put in our shallots, and we're going to put in our garlic, all classic flavour combinations, and we're going to put in our bacon. What we're also going to add in there is just a very, very small glug of olive oil. We give that a very quick mix. As you can see, I've not got this on a searing heat. This is just a very, very gentle heat, and the aim here is to sweat down those shallots, soften them off, just cook through that garlic and start to get those flavours out of that pancetta. Okay, so these have been going for a couple of minutes now, and these shallots are beautifully soft, absolutely lovely. Beautiful smell of pancetta coming out here, although it's not pancetta, it's smoked bacon, but you'll forgive me. Then we're going to go in with our mushrooms, which are minced down. Might not be the most appealing to people. Bear in mind, you don't have to put these mushrooms in here. but I really love a mushroom. They add a really lovely earthy texture to this. We have the mushrooms, and we add about a teaspoon of dried herbs in here. Let's give it a little bit of a stir. Don't be tempted to add any more butter or oil to this pan. What we know about mushrooms is when you start to fry them down like this, they will release a lot of moisture. That's what we want. We want this to start to turn into a little bit of a paste. I did neglect to add that another couple of additional ingredients that we're going to add to this are some sherry, or I'll be using some dessert wine, and just a little bit of double cream to bind this all together, just to stop it going too grainy. So we do want it to be a lovely luxurious filling. We don't want it to be dry, because obviously we've got our pastry there as well. So just let this cook out for a little bit. As you can see already, the moisture has come out of these mushrooms here, which is why the pan's not making that sizzling noise anymore. Let that moisture dry out, let this go a little bit pasty, and then we'll add our 2 wet ingredients. Okay, so we've cooked this down now to the point where there's hardly any moisture left in this pan. Now, before it gets to the stage where it's completely dry, let's add a little splash of dessert wine. Lovely and sweet. You can add sherry, you can add whatever you want in there, as long as it's got quite a sweet taste to it. Beautiful. Now we're also going to add a decent glug of double cream. We're going to turn the heat right down, and we're going to let that cook down again. This is still far too watery for what we need, so the double cream is going to thicken. We're also going to lose some of the liquid from the wine as we cook this down, so all it's about now is just keeping this moving and reducing this down. Okay, so we've let this simmer away now for a good couple of minutes, and already you can see this is starting to thicken up into the texture that we want. We're going to take this off the heat now, because anything cream based will continue to thicken on standing. So we're going to take this off the heat, transfer another pan straight over. Now we're going to start to work on these pheasant breasts. Now we're going to get these pheasant breasts on the go. So the other half of the knob of butter that we stuck into one side, stick this in the pan, melt this down. Okay, so these have had about a minute on this side. Just turn them over. We're not looking to get too much colour on them, nothing like that. Just get them started, just sear them off a little bit. Just start that cooking process. Most of the cooking process for these is going to be in the oven, but we don't want to put them into that pastry raw, because we're going to end up with soggy pastry. So we just cook them off in this butter a little bit. In a minute we'll be taking these off the heat. So they've had a minute or two either side, and these are now ready to come off. Turn this heat off, just take the pan off of the heat, put it to one side, let those cool. Now it's time to start constructing this dish. Okay, so we're going to get onto the stage now where we start to construct these mini Wellingtons. The key to this is try not to be too precise about it. We've got a nice sheet of puff pastry here. We're going to cut this straight down the middle. And just as a guideline, rather than run the blade all the way through this pastry, we're just going to lightly run it across the other side there. So we end up with half, and then a little guide as to half and half here. Let's fetch our tongs. First thing we want to do is get one of these fillets, probably on here. Another one of the larger fillets on here. And then one of the smaller fillets here. And here. Let's put this to one side. Now what we want to do is position them in such a way that we're going to be able to encase them beautifully in this pastry. The pastry will stretch slightly, so don't worry too much about it being absolutely perfect. And now what we need to do is we need to take our beautiful mushroom, garlic, pancetta and shallot sauce, spoon it over the top here. You don't need to use it all. I'm going to show you a beautiful trick, a beautiful little tip to use the rest of this here. Now what we want to do with this is take our beaten egg, run it all around the outside, both sides of this pastry. This is going to help us stick the pastry down. Beautiful. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect, just roughly. Lift one side of the pastry over to the other, and then we're going to cover it over. Just like that. And the best way to cover it over is to grab a fork, and just knit these edges in. Then when you've pinched all of the edges together, just take a knife and cut yourself 3 little lines on the top here, just to let the air escape. Now what we're going to do is transfer these over into a baking tray. Now that we've got these onto the baking tray, what we're going to do is use the rest of our egg whites here and our beaten egg, and we're just going to completely cover this pastry with this beaten egg. Once we've done this, this goes into the oven on 200 degrees fan or 220 degrees centigrade conventional oven, gas mark 7, for about 15 minutes or until it's golden brown. Okay, so while our pheasant Wellingtons are in, here's a little trick to help save some waste on the filling that you created there if you didn't use it all. So what I've got here is one of these little chicken stock liquid cubes, and I'm going to add a little bit of water to that, a little bit of hot water, and this pan's just gone back on the heat, and I'm going to stir this liquid cube into a little stock cube straight into this sauce, and I'm going to make a beautiful gravy to go with this, just using all of the remnants of the filling that we didn't actually use in the Wellington. Perfect idea, saves on waste, full of flavour. Simple little trick for you. Okay, so we are now ready to serve this up, and just take a look at that. Now don't get me wrong, I know that is a huge piece of food, but you can quite easily carve that in half and have that, you know, one between 2 people. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do here is take a look at the inside of this beautiful Wellington. Let's just cut this straight down the middle. Got a lovely piece of meat in there which I'm carving through at the moment. Let's just try and carve this open and just look at that beautiful pastry. Let me see if I can turn this around so you can see it properly. Look at that. Beautiful pastry, beautiful meat running through there. Let me turn that around, hopefully you can see that. Look at that, fantastic. I've just served this up with some herby mash and some creamed cabbage. And the final thing that I'm going to add to this is this little gravy that I told you about. Just a little chicken stock cube in there, little bit of water and the remnants of the filling that we put inside this Wellington, and we just give that a gentle pour all over here. Now that is amazing. Now what that remains really is the taste test, so let's get right in here. Cut a piece of this beautiful pheasant, get some pastry, get some filling in here. Look at that. Just take a little bit less, I don't want to burn myself. Wowee, everything about that is absolutely superb. Where you're expecting to get really beefy flavours from a Wellington, this is just beautifully subtle. Lovely garlic running through there, you've got that mixed herb, you've got those lovely mushrooms that are adding that moisture in there, that gravy is lovely. Don't get me wrong, this takes a little bit of effort to make, but honestly it's worthwhile. It's so good, it's so luxurious, so rich, so beautiful. Honestly, absolutely one of the best things I've tasted in a very long time. Okay, so in summary guys, on the whole, I was incredibly impressed with all of the products sent to me by Wild and Game. What I would say is that there's probably a little bit of a stigma attached to game meat, something around the idea of it's a little bit elitist, it's a little bit expensive. What I think you'll find if you kind of venture down that route of trying a little bit more game meat is that it's better for you than some of the meat that we eat day in, day out. It's actually a little bit cheaper, it's more sustainable, it's a lot easier to cook than you think. My mind's changed slightly. I've enjoyed every single minute of cooking with this produce, and big thanks go out to the guys at Wild and Game for sending me the products. If anyone's interested in buying products from Wild and Game, you will get a 10% discount if you mention Blackwell or Best of British Blackwell when you place your order. I'll put all the details below in this video. But again, please do give it a go. It's a not-for-profit organisation. What they're there to do is to promote the idea of using more sustainable meats, meats that are better for you, meats that are not aggressively farmed the way that things like beef and chicken are. Honestly guys, give it a go. Thank you for watching the videos, and I'll see you again very soon.